So we are almost at the end of the 12th chapter, the book of Revelation, and we started on understanding what's happening with the earth here. Okay, but the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. We had one explanation here, which Brother David gave to us. And right now we are looking at a different kind of explanation of what's happening here. And for that one, for the different kind of explanation, we found two main passages which have the same idea of the earth opening its mouth and swallowing up something or somebody. So right now I'm going to show you the first one and the second one. We did read everything about the first key passage. We read Exodus 15. Okay, so I already found it up ahead. So you see, I hope you can see my screen. So that's pretty much the same idea here. The earth swallowed them. It's Exodus 15. And it is a song of Hebrew people who came out of Egypt, and the Red Sea destroyed the main people of Egypt. All right, do you remember that? Should I?
Yes.
Unless I should go a little bit deeper in it. Okay, and we also found out that numbers 16 have exactly, I would say exactly the same idea. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up. You see, that's how our Revelation says. And definitely once we have such huge, what's that word? When coincidence, I think. It's not a coincidence.
Oh, analogy.
Analogy, okay. So it's not an accident, I hope. Accidental, it's not accidental, okay? So we have to study numbers 16 and keep it in mind before we try to really understand what the revelation means, okay? So tonight, we will read chapter 16 by God's grace when it gets opened on the screen. It's coming up. And please do not pay much attention to different details of it, though it's very important also. But let's get the whole picture just by reading. We simply read the book, read the chapter, make sure that we understand the main stream of the chapter, and happy we are to understand the whole story. All right, let's get started. If if it is very difficult for you, just stop me and say, let's go slowly and with more details. Please do not hesitate, okay? So, Brother David, let's start from you. Let's take verses 1 and 2 for you.
Okay. Now Korah, the son of Izhar, no, now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, with Dathan and Abram, the sons of Eliab, and on the son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, took men. And they rose up before Moses with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, representatives of the congregation, men of renown.
Okay, just tell us what you understood. Okay.
Yes, okay. They rose up before Moses. Well, first of all, these people, the Korah son, and all of this liturgy here. I mean, all of these people. These are men of renown. So these are, I would say, holy men, important people in the congregation. So
Okay.
these are helpers to Moses, like leaders, and they rose up before Moses with some of the children of Israel.
Okay, very
as
good.
women, men of renown. Yeah, so they were doing something for him and with him.
Basically, they were leaders of Israel also. We understand that Moses was the main leader because God worked strictly through him. But of course, when Israelites came out of Egypt, there were 2 million people of them. So of course, there could be some other leaders in the generations kind of to help the people to be organized. So, and we see 250 leaders plus Korah and Dathan and Abiram, these ones, okay, and some of the children of Israel. So it was pretty good bunch of people. And they stood up before Moses. Please have that picture in your mind, and we will continue reading. Okay, Sister Anne, would you please read verse 3, if it's possible for you? Okay, the microphone is coming up. No, so maybe Brother Chris will have verse 3.
Okay, give me 1 second. They gathered together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do ye exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?"
Okay, so they brought a question before Moses. And what was the question about?
They said that they took too much time, that they were taking too long. And go ahead, David.
Oh, no, just that they were taking too much responsibility onto themselves, and they accused them of self-exaltation because they were taking too much responsibility for the whole congregation. Moses was taking too much responsibility, and Aaron for the whole congregation.
You see, Brother Chris? They say,
I was trying to get to it, but I didn't get a chance, though.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So we're getting the idea. They're accusing Moses and Aaron of leading incorrectly. You just you think you are the main ones, haha. We are good ones also, so we have to be together, something like that. Okay, the accusers here. Okay, Brother Chris, let's do 4 and 5.
Let Brother David. That's good.
Okay, let's do 4 and 5, Brother Chris.
No, Brother David can do it.
Or you want me to do it?
Hugh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Brother David already did first once. Okay, sorry. I think Sister Anne already came. Sister Anne, can you open your
Yes.
microphone?
Yes, I have it now.
Okay,
Who's-
now
who's
you
right?
have 4
Okay.
and 5 for yourself. Okay.
So when Moses heard it, he fell on his face, and he spoke to Korah, and
Korah.
Korah, and all his company, saying, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is he and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. That one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him." Okay. He
Okay.
fell down to his face, and he spoke to Korah, and his company, saying he wouldn't be talking to the Lord tomorrow morning, and his holy, and who is holy. That was the Lord would be holy, and he'll come near to Moses. That one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. I don't understand the first part. And he spoke to Korah,
Mhm. So Moses basically says, okay, I'm not going to argue with you, but let's do that. Tomorrow morning, the Lord will
Well-
show who is holy and who is not.
Yeah, who's the man? Who's the
Who is the
he's
true
one that's-
leader, who is not the true leader.
Yep.
Okay. And then let's see, it's very important here, brothers and sisters. It's not
Mhm.
about leadership, although everything got started from the leadership. It's about holiness. Moses says, let's see who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. Okay. So who is holy? Either Korah with his 250 people, or Moses and Aaron, just 2 people. Okay, let's continue. So keep in mind how things are getting developed here. Do not throw away what you already know about the story. So, Brother David, 6 and 7, please, for you.
Okay. Do this. Take censers, Korah, and all your company. Put fire in them and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord chooses is the Holy One. You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi.
Okay.
So he was telling them basically to test the Lord or to find out from the Lord. And he was telling them how to do it. And then at the end of it, I think Moses got a little bit funny. You know, he got a little bit sarcastic and sort of repeated what they were saying, and then left it in the Lord's hands, instructed them to let the Lord decide.
Well, I would not say sarcastic, but you see, knowing Moses, I would say he was afraid that something would be going wrong with those people. You see how it got started in verse 4. So when Moses heard it, he fell on his face. So he kind of fell in prayer on his face. He knew that Korah with his people was very incorrect and it could cost them death.
So it was rebellion almost. It was like a rebellion.
Absolutely. It's like we come to the government and we say, government, you are wrong, go away, we will be the new one, we will be instead of you. Or maybe you can stay, but we will be on the same level as you are, guys. You see? That was rebellion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Moses knew that this rebellion is not going to finish bad, is not going to finish well for them, not for Moses and Aaron, because Moses definitely was from God and Aaron was from God, and these guys came from nowhere, basically. And that's why he says, you take too much responsibility on yourself. You guys aren't going to finish well. Okay, let's continue. So, brother Chris, verse 8 and 9 would be for you, please. Don't forget to turn on your microphone, please. Okay, now brother Chris is fighting with his microphone. Okay, I think Sister Anne will continue. 8 and 9.
Okay. Then Moses said to Korah,
Korah.
Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi. Isn't a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of the Lord, stand before the congregation to serve them. Okay, this small thing to you that God of Israel has separated. God separated the congregation, the Quran, to bring you near to himself, to bring them near to God.
Yes, it's not like separated congregation, but God took Korah with these people from the congregation of Israel. So God took them for himself, you see, to bring you near to himself. So
Near to God.
Near to God. So Korah and those 250 people had a pretty good position in the governing of people. They were not nobody, you know. Okay, and they needed to work in the tabernacle for the Lord. So Aaron was the high priest, and these people worked and served God under the authority of Aaron, the high priest.
Sister Sasha, I have a question. Now, was this after they supposedly, you think this was after they did the fire and the incense and then God said to them, okay, come on in, or is this before?
Fire and incense. I don't know what you mean.
Well, in the previous verses, Moses instructed them to take fire and incense.
No, it's just the conversation is it continues. This the
Oh, okay,
continuation of the conversation.
so that has not happened at this point.
No.
Okay.
The conversation goes on, and Moses is trying to bring senses to them, I would say, to help them to step back. He says, don't you know, you know that God already gave you wonderful possibility to serve him, and you are struggling for the position of Aaron and Moses. You guys are making a huge mistake, because because God himself established how things should be. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, I see Sister Stella came. That's good. Another one to read. Okay. And Brother Chris, are you back? How is your microphone?
It's doing fine.
Okay, very good. 10 and 11 for you.
And that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi with you, and are you seeking the priesthood also. Therefore, you and all your company are gathered together against the Lord. And what is Aaron that you complain against him?
So what do we understand? He continues talking.
They're talking about that they're continue to become priests, that they're against the Lord. The companies gathered together against the Lord. They're not happy with Aaron, basically.
Yeah, basically, yes. He's explaining. Moses is explaining. Come on, you are very wrong. Why are you complaining against Aaron, for example? So Aaron did not do anything wrong. Do you want to be a priesthood also? They cannot be priesthood, you see? So Korah and his company had rebelled. It was rebellion. They wanted what God did not give them.
So but it seems like, sister, it seems like Moses was trying to make them aware of that.
Exactly, Moses is trying to explain them because Moses knows how badly it can finish for them.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Are we on the same page, brother Chris?
Mhm.
Okay, very good. Mhm. Don't forget to ask questions if something is really difficult. And Sister Anne continues with 12 and 13. If she can open her microphone.
I have it. Okay, okay, where is it, 13 or 12 and 13?
Yes, please.
Okay, and Moses said to call Dathan and Abraham, the sons of Elab, but they said, we will not come up. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land falling with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us? And Moses
Oops.
said to call, ooh, that's something bad there. Ooh.
Mhm.
And Moses said to call Dan and Abraham, sons of, but they said, we will not come up. In other words, they're going to disobey him.
Exactly. And they say a very, very strange thing, thing here. What do they say? You, Moses, brought us out of the land flowing with milk and honey.
Or to kill us. In other words, they were saying that that Moses was going to kill them.
Exactly. So they say, Moses, basically, you brought us from Egypt, but Egypt was so good, milk and honey.
And now they're starving.
And yeah, in the
Did they-
wilderness is still, so they're kind of mad.
Uh-huh.
Still angry.
Did they really not understand what was going on in Egypt, and they thought that that was for them perfect, and what Moses was doing was better for them? They really didn't understand that.
Well, they were starving. They were hungry and thirsty.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but did they really think Egypt was like the place to be regardless?
Well, yeah, because they were thinking with their flesh, brother. They weren't thinking with their hearts and their spirit. They were thinking with their flesh.
Well, comparing to the situation they were in here in the wilderness, if compare this situation to Egypt, some of them could say that Egypt was better. Though Egypt wasn't really good to them at all, but you know, in 2 million people, there could be some people who would be even nicely living in Egypt. They came out only because they thought they would go to a better land. So some leaders could be living good lives in Egypt also, while others suffering. But yes, they were not thinking straight. Answering your question, brother Chris. They forgot or decided not to remember that they were going into the promised land. They never seen that promised land. That's why they easily could refuse it. And that's why they did not have comparison, never been to the promised land, into the promised land, but they remembered that at least in Egypt, they had a piece of meat once a while. And basically that's what happens to many so-called Christians who try to come out of their spiritual Egypt when they should stop drinking, smoking, doing bad things, you know, all that stuff. But they try to come out and they are coming out of it and they still do not see the promised land yet. And the longer it goes, the more precious Egypt becomes. You see? So, and many people, by the way, go back to their sins. They say, oh, that was more fun back there than here in the wilderness. So, but though happy are those who fix their eyes on the prize up ahead, on the promised land, and never put their eyes back to the place where they came from. Never turn around to look back. So yeah, they were really making a huge mistake. And Moses tried to correct that mistake here. But they started already telling about Egypt like about, milk and honey. And they started accusing Moses that he is led by himself, not by God, you see. And they say, you make yourself a prince over all of us. Though Moses never done anything like that. Okay. All right, let's continue reading. Who was reading? I don't remember already.
Sister Ann.
Okay, Sister Ann.
Told you.
All right, now I think it's time for Brother David to read 14 and 15.
Okay. Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. Then Moses was very angry and said to the Lord, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I hurt one of them.
Mhm.
Well, they were recalcitrant. I mean, they were in recalcitrance against Moses, and they were expecting a land flowing with milk and honey. They wanted their fields and vineyards, but they didn't see that ahead of them. So that's why they experienced such, they demonstrated such recalcitrance against Moses. And then Moses also became very angry with them and, summoned the Lord and took it to God and asked him not to respect their offerings, and telling the Lord that he was basically not responsible for their attitude against him.
Absolutely, that's good. That's very good that you caught it. Moses says, "I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I hurt one of them." So Moses says, "It's not because I hurt any one of them. It's because basically they are going against you, Lord." So Moses gives everything to the Lord here. Yeah. All right. Let's continue, Brother Chris. 16 and 17.
And Moses said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company be present before the Lord, and you and they, as well as Aaron. Let each take a censer and put incense in it, and each of you bring his censer before the Lord, 250 censers, both you and Aaron, each with his censer.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted Aaron and Korah and his people to bring censers and bring it before the Lord, and to see for them to light incense for the Lord.
Mm-hmm. So he proposes, let's do a worship tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord will decide.
Yes.
Very good, very good. All right, Sister Anne continues with 18 and 19.
Okay. So very man took his censer and put fire in it, laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tabernacle of meeting with Moses and Aaron. And I can't pronounce that name again.
Korah.
Korah gathered all the congregation against them at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Then the glory of the Lord appeared, all the congregation.
Mhm. So
Ah,
what's happening here?
okay, so what it means, that's the sense is that was, I did the incense and put fire in the lamp of incense on it and stood at the door of the tabernacle where they pray
Yes.
with Moses and Aaron, and Jesus come to them.
Yeah, I
So-
agree. Jesus, it was Jesus. Yes. The
And
glory of the Lord, Jesus.
Lord was,
Mhm.
yeah, come to the door of the tabernacle of the meeting, because that's where the tabernacle, only special people go in the tabernacle. So the
Mhm.
glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation. He met all of them.
So the whole congregation saw
Nations.
saw something, and they could say the glory of the Lord appeared.
Mhm.
Okay. So okay, let's see what happens next. Sister Stella, will you be able to read 2021? I think she cannot. So we'll continue with Brother David, 2021.
Okay. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment.
Oops.
Okay, so the Lord was obviously extremely unpleased with their rebellion and their attitude. And he told them, you know, get away from them, because I'm going to consume them. No, the Lord was not happy with this, and that's all.
Absolutely. And he says, now everyone separates from these 250 people, and I will deal with those people. All right, Brother Chris, let's do 22.
So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, get away from the tents of Korath. Katan, oh, that's, I cannot pronounce the gentleman's name, and
Hold on, what are you reading? 22.
22.
Uh-huh.
It was 22 or 23 and 24.
22.
I'm
22.
sorry.
Uh-huh.
Then they fell on their faces and said, O God, the God of the spirits of the flesh, shall one man sin and you be angry with all the congregation?
Basically, we did not say the correct thing here. Let's read together 21, 22.
Okay. Separate yourselves from among the congregation.
And let's do 20, 21, 22, sorry.
And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among the congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. That they fell on their faces and said, O God, the God of the spirits of the flesh, shall one man sin, and you will be angry with all the congregation. So he says to Moses and Aaron, to not be with the congregation.
Separate yourself, two of you, separate yourself.
Right. And he's going to basically take care of the congregation, because if one man sins, he's going to be angry with the congregation.
So God says, I will deal with the whole congregation.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses says, oh God, one man committed sin and you're going to kill the whole congregation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the conversation here. Okay. Now we're catching correctly here. Let's continue. Sister Ann, 23 and 24.
So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, get away from tents of Korah, Dedem, and Abraham. So he's telling the word telling Moses to get away from these people because they're kind of, not right with God.
Good, very good. Not just Abiram,
Yeah,
Abiram,
Abraham.
Abiram. It's
Abiram.
different. Mhm.
Yes.
Korah, Dathan, and
And-
Abiram. Okay, so God says, okay, no problem. I don't want to destroy the whole congregation, but the congregation itself should go away from the tents of these three people.
Mhm.
Okay, let's continue. Brother David, 25:26.
Then Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, Depart now from the tents of these wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins.
Mhm.
Okay, so Moses was actually giving them a warning, what the Lord told him. So that warning was so that they would not be destroyed. Basically,
Exactly.
that's what it.
Very, very good. Yeah. These three people are already doomed. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, they're doomed. They're gonna die.
Mhm.
It's obvious. But in order for others to survive, God says, depart now from the tents of these wicked men, even don't touch anything, otherwise you will die with them.
But Sister Sasha, do those men bow down and pray for forgiveness?
Apparently not.
No.
You see, it's happening in the next day. When the first day, when they came to Moses and Aaron, Moses and Aaron tried to stop them, to explain things to them, but they insisted. And Moses says, okay, take census and let's worship. And the next day they came to worship in front of God, and God spoke to Moses, telling him, I'm gonna kill those three. And by the way, with them, the whole congregation will go. Moses says, how about, could you please save the congregation at least? And God says, okay, go to those three. It's, the worship is already finished. Go to those three people, tell them that they're gonna die, but the whole congregation should separate from them. Those who do not separate from those three people will die with them. Okay, that's the story here. 26. So let's continue with 27. Brother Chris, I believe.
So they got away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan and Abram. And Dathan and Abram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives, their children, their sons, and their little children. It's just Korah, Dathan, and Abram stood at the door of their tents with their wives, their children, their sons, and their children.
So apparently they did not want to repent at all.
No.
They just
Didn't.
got out of their tents, were standing there, their wives, their children, like nothing is gonna happen,
Mhm.
Like God did not talk to Moses about what's gonna happen. But the people who were smart enough, they separated from them. So they got away from around the tents. So they moved away their tents from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So let's continue what's happening next. Brother David goes 28, sorry, Sister Anne, I think, 28, 29.
Okay. And Moses said, by this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. If these men die naturally like all men, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. Okay, Moses, by this you shall Moses said, by this you shall know that the Lord has sent me. In other words, he went to the Lord has sent Moses to do his works, all these works. I have not done them on my own will. He couldn't do anything on his own will except the Lord.
So Moses says, now let's see if I've done anything on my own will. Let's
Yeah,
see. Whatever. I came to Egypt, took 2 million people out of Egypt, went through the Red Sea with those people. If it were my works, let's see it, he says.
Okay, if this men die naturally, like all men, if they die naturally, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, which is men in general, the Lord has not sent me. In other words, he didn't send Moses.
So in other words, Moses says, let's see, Moses says, if these 3 men die like usual death, nothing unusual happens, they just die usually. So it was not the Lord who sent me. So he says, let's check it out. You see, the problem with all of it was about the whole congregation, those 250 people and those 3 main leaders. They actually stirred up the whole congregation, 2 million people, against Moses. So, but Moses was the leader who had to bring them to the promised land. And now there is a huge problem here. The congregation does not believe Moses.
Sister Sasha, in other words, they didn't even believe God either.
Of course, if they don't believe Moses, who is a prophet of God, they do not believe God, so they cannot enter the promised land. And in this case, God cannot fulfill his promise because they will refuse to get inside of the promised land.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is very, very difficult here. And Moses says, okay, now the whole congregation, please see, if this man die naturally, okay, I'm nobody and my name is nothing. And let's continue, sister, with verse 30. What else does he say?
You want me to read this one too, Sister
Yes,
Sasha?
please.
Okay, but if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive in the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord. Oh, they went against the Lord, they didn't believe him.
Yeah.
So the Lord, Lord create, if the Lord creates a new thing, in other words, a new thing, if he creates something and they don't obey him, they're gonna die.
Yeah, but at the same time, Moses says, congregation, listen, if this miracle happens, can you imagine? Everybody standing up and the earth actually opens up and all 3 tents with the people next to these tents fall into the pit and the earth closes up. Isn't it a miracle? It's a huge miracle. And Moses says, if that happens, please understand, I am from God. Okay? That's a huge miracle. It's like you're standing up and from nowhere, the earth, oops, opened, you just fall down and the earth closes. Like a mouth, swallowed up.
Swallowed up, yeah. They just didn't believe him. They just didn't believe him.
Because, yes, they don't believe them. And the congregation is already thinking, should we believe Moses or we should not believe Moses? Like this. Okay, let's continue. So, Brother David, let's do 31 and 32.
Okay. Now it came to pass, as he finished speaking all these words, that the ground split apart under them, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, with their households and all the men with Korah, with all their goods.
And the
So it's
33, let's do 33 also.
Okay. So they and all those with them went down alive into the pit, the earth closed over them and they perished from among the assembly. So this is pretty much, it came to pass that what God said he was going to do, he did. And the rest is pretty much self-explanatory.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's interesting, once he just stopped talking, the things happen right away without a delay. Okay? I hope you do not feel pity for those people who died because they chose their path themselves. Moses tried to stop them. Moses, I believe, prayed for them all night long for them to become more wise and stop the rebellion, but they did not want to stop. And
Yeah, but
once
Sister,
they,
but Sister Sasha, do you think if any one of them realized and they confessed their sin and bowed down and prayed and supplicated to the Lord for mercy, do you think he would have gave it to them?
Absolutely. And it's very interesting that a little bit later we will meet one of the sons of that Korah who died. So apparently, at least one of his sons stood away from the tent. So everyone who stayed at the tents and at those 3 tents, they died. But those who moved away from the tents, they survived, though they weren't the best people either, because they were in such rebellion. So God made sure that those who could not repent died, and those who had a chance, just okay, they had a chance, no problem. But it's very important. It's a very important lesson here, especially if we understand that it is on the way to the promised land, and they are about to enter the promised land, not right away, of course, but they should. And the rebellion happens. And the rebellion aims at Moses and Aaron. So the rebellion aims at the main leader and the high priest. And if God allows that rebellion go on, the whole congregation never ever will enter the promised land.
Wow. Sister Sasha, that means they just that was the flesh. They should want to do their own thing. They just want to go their own way.
They decided to go their own way and they did not turn. They did not want to repent. These people cannot be saved. Such people cannot be saved. They will be only, destroying the congregation of God. They have to die. They have to just go what they actually chose. Yeah. God does not like the situation, how it goes on, but we all know that when Jesus comes back, not everyone goes to heaven. If people sturdily were choosing to disobey God all the time, like not fighting against Satan, but just following Satan, well, why would God take them in the heavenly kingdom? That's nonsense. So right now we see the situation, and let's finish a little bit the story here. Brother Chris, would you please read 34 and 35?
Then all Israel who were around them fled at their cry, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up also. And a fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense.
So what do we see here? How this story is finishing?
He consumed the rest of the people that were against him, against the other people that were against him.
So 100, this
The
250,
250.
those who dared to come to the tabernacle and make worship, which God did not allow them to do. It wasn't theirs to do, but they dared to question God himself. They died also.
Mhm.
And it's very, very much correct, because otherwise everybody in the congregation will think that they can do whatever they wish to do. God says, no, guys, if you follow me, I promise to bring you to the promised land. I promise that you will be happy in that land. But guys, you got to listen to me, God says. Otherwise, you will come to that promised land and you will start a new Egypt there. Nobody needs Egypt again, especially in the promised land. That's why our God, Lord, is working hard on each one of us to help us to get rid of these tendencies to sin, tendencies to rebel against God. Otherwise, it's not possible to take us into his kingdom. Rebellion never will enter his kingdom. So allow God to work on you right now, right here, day by day. And by the way, these men, 250, those three so-called leaders, they saw all the miracles in Egypt. They went through the Red Sea with others. They sang that song when they got to the other shore of that Red Sea. They built the tabernacle together with others, and still they chose to rebel. There is no possibility to help them anymore.
That was kind of like pridefulness on their part, because they stood up against, they were proud. They were way too proud to follow Moses through God. They wanted to be that themselves.
Absolutely. And don't you notice that's like a satanic thing here?
Oh, yes, that they were reflecting Satan's ways.
Exactly. Satan was too proud eventually. He wanted to take place of Jesus Christ. That's why he fell. So if somebody entertains the desire to take a higher position, which never was meant for that person, that's Satan working. You see? So, and if people allowed Satan to already use them so much, God says, guys, you made your choice. I tried to save you. I did everything to save you as others in the congregation, but you made your choice. Okay? So let's stop it here. Now we know the story. Now we know both stories. And next time when we continue reading the book of Revelation, we will try to make a conclusion on what is gonna be happening at the end of chapter 12. Let's pray.